Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 25 series. Can we save the Oakland A's? And things are going pretty well here in the 2037 season for our Oakland A's. Although we have shockingly lost 7 of our last 8 games as the month of July came to an end and we approached the trade deadline where we didn't really do much of anything. We still have the best record in baseball at 65-38 as August gets underway. Still ranked first in the latest power rankings, and the team is well positioned to hopefully have home field advantage throughout the playoffs if we can continue to play and win at this pace over the remainder of this season. Interestingly, despite the best record in baseball, and despite being defending World Series champions who look like they are ready to go and win, or at least compete for another World Series this year, our fan interest has fallen over the course of the season, even though we've been selling out every game and we bumped our ticket prices up another notch, even though fan interest has fallen 3 points this year. But I do kind of question, we're the defending World Series champions, we're the best team in baseball, and we're selling out every game. But our fan interest is still moving in the wrong direction. I'm just not sure exactly what I am supposed to do to ensure that that message doesn't deteriorate on us. But we'll see if maybe the fact that we have been slumping of late is something that we can remedy. And maybe if we start tearing off a couple of 6 and 7 game win streaks over the next several weeks, we will get a little boost back to fan interest and have the fans here in Oakland a little bit happier about what's going on. As we sit here on August 1st, as I noted, best record in baseball. We are 3 games up on the Royals for the best record in the American League. Only 1 game up on the Padres for the best record in baseball at this point. But still in a pretty good position to hopefully end the stranglehold that the Rangers have had on the AL West for the last half decade or so. We're in a pretty good situation as far as injuries at this point. Only our best player, Jake Ortega, out with a broken kneecap for 7 months, so he is gone for the year. But everybody else at the major league level is healthy at this point. Do have a fair amount of injuries across our minor league system, but you're going to have that when you're dealing with a couple hundred players across 6 levels plus of an organization. So the hope is to remain healthy and continue playing well over these last couple months of the season, and hopefully have these A's positioned in a very positive spot with a first-round bye and hopefully home field advantage at the very least throughout the American League playoffs, and hopefully throughout as long as we're alive in the playoffs here in 2037. And as we look at the schedule for this month of August, it's going to be a pivotal month for us. We start off with the last place Mariners, but we've got 3 games home against Texas this upcoming week. Then we've got a 4-game road trip to Texas, and then 3 more back at home against the Rangers towards the end of the month. So given that they are the closest team to us in the standings and one of the biggest budget teams in all of baseball, team that, as we've talked about, has become a perennial AL West division winner, and a team that's won a couple of championships in the last 4 seasons. You can see here, huge market size, extreme fan loyalty, 100 fan interest, 5th biggest budget in baseball, in the largest payroll in all of baseball for the Rangers this year. So with 10 games against them this month, I think we'll probably have a pretty good sense when we get to the end of August as to whether we are going to be able to get by them in the AL West this year, or whether if they go 8-2 against us in those 10 games or something like that, whether they are going to continue their stranglehold on the division title. And while we did get the month of August to a good start, snapping our 4-game losing streak with a 5-1 win against the Mariners, just a day after I was talking about only one significant injury to the team, we suffered an injury to probably our best pitcher this year. Doug Weiss, the outstanding second-year stopper, going to be out with a virus for 1 to 2 weeks. He is 4-2 this year with 12 saves, a 1.90 ERA over 90 innings pitched, 23 shutdowns versus just 5 meltdowns, and he's put up a 4 WAR for us, working entirely out of the bullpen. Named an All-Star for the first time this season, and of course was a member of the World Championship team a year ago. So we'll put him on the IL just to be cautious. We've got good depth in AAA with some pitchers that we've had up and down this year that we don't mind seeing again. So we'll ensure that he recovers from COVID or whatever happens to be impacting him over the next week, week and a half. He might have a couple extra days on the IL, but at least maybe that'll keep him away from the rest of the team. But although we won the first 2 games of the month against the last place Mariners, things haven't gone particularly well against better teams. We lost 2 out of 3 at home against Texas, and then we just lost 3 out of 4 at home against Tampa Bay. So certainly a 2-5 homestand, not what we were looking for to get this month started. On the road now at the Angels and Texas, and then at Houston. So the 3 teams that are closest to us in the division, we're going to be playing on the road over these next 10 days. Standings getting a little cuspier for us here. We're only 3.5 games up on the Rangers in the division at this point. Fortunately, the Royals have also been struggling, so we're up 3.5 on them, despite the fact that we're not playing all that well this month. San Diego is actually half a game ahead of us for the best record in baseball at this point. Juan Ramos, who led the AL last year with 148 ribbies, second this year with 83. Dan Donahue of Houston has been off the charts in that category all year, so I think it's pretty unlikely we'll catch him. He is also still a contender for a potential Triple Crown. Our brilliant rookie starter, Jesus Saldana, leading the American League with a 1.83 ERA. The only question with him is whether he's going to finish the season with enough innings to qualify for the title. You can see he's up almost a full run a game on Steve Genis, the brilliant pitcher from Texas, who's looking for, I believe, a 4th consecutive Cy Young Award this year. And it looks like at this point, if Saldana can qualify for the ERA title, he'll likely keep Genis from winning a pitching Triple Crown. If Saldana doesn't get up enough innings, right now he's got 113, and our team has played 112 games, so he's been kind of borderline on and off the chart for enough innings to qualify all season long. If Saldana doesn't qualify, it's very conceivable that Genis could win a pitching Triple Crown on his way to a potential 4th consecutive Cy Young Award. Over in the National League, our old buddy Luis Lara continues to lead the league in stolen bases. I don't want to say late career resurgence, but he is almost 33 years old at this point. Had 31 steals with us when he was 28 years old in 2033, but the league-leading 36 he has this year as of August 10th is already the most that he's ever put up in a single season in his major league career. And with the continued losing, the fan interest continues to fall, even though we are pretty much selling out every game this year, even though we've raised ticket prices $1 every month. And it is really all unraveling very quickly here for the Oakland A's. We took only 1 out of 3 against the Angels, took out of one of 4 only against the Rangers, and we had to salvage that, winning the last game yesterday 11-5. So we've got 3 at Houston before we come back home, but the scenario that we kind of feared, actually we took 2 out of 4 against Texas, if I could do some simple math. But a 3-4 road trip for us, 3 games left against Houston. The lead on the Rangers is 4 in the division. The Astros, who we're going to be playing next, are now lurking just 4.5 behind with 5 wins in a row. Padres at 76-43 are now 4 games better than us for the best record in baseball. They've won 7 in a row, 9-1 in their last 10. So we felt good about this team heading into the trade deadline. We talked a lot last episode about the feedback from the Worldwide Scouting Department and not chasing after a reliever like Lelius Arps, who we thought the price was too high for. And we did investigate catchers, but the prices for them were just kind of ridiculous. I'm still telling myself it's just bad luck that we're kind of muddling along, but I have to be realistic. We have slipped to 4th out of 30 in the latest power rankings. And runs scored, we were 1st in the American League probably a month ago, and we've dipped all the way to 7th now. The pitching still exceptional, 1st in the American League in runs allowed, and you can see 1st, 2nd, or 3rd in just about every pitching category. But the offense, which the first month or so that Jake Ortega was injured, continued to produce at a pretty high level, is finally struggling pretty significantly over these last several weeks. And you can see as we sit here on August 17th, midway through the month, we've got a losing record in August, the first time all season that may happen if we don't turn things around over these next 2 weeks. And another week in the books for the A's, and another mediocre week. We lost 2 out of 3 at Houston. Did take 2 out of 3 at home against Colorado. So that was the first time we've actually won a series since the Seattle series at the beginning of the month. 3 at home against Texas, and then 3 on the road at the Dodgers before we finish off the month. Texas now 4.5 behind. Houston has moved into 2nd, 3.5 behind, in part due to taking 2 out of 3 from us. The Dodgers, this team, are actually only a barely under 500 team. I believe they still have a pretty high payroll. Yeah, 1st in budget and 5th in payroll, so still a very expensive team, but not experiencing the same kind of success on the field this year as the big budget Rangers are in our division. As we sit here on August 24th, still 4 teams in the AL West clearly in the playoff mix. We would have the division right now. The Astros and the Rangers would have 2 wild card spots, and the Angels are just lurking 4 games out of the wild card at this point. And our number 5 starter, Bobby Garland, just suffered a mild shoulder strain, going to be out for about 2 weeks. You may remember Garland. He's started each of the last couple seasons in the bullpen, and then he's moved into our 5th starter spot both seasons when others have struggled, and he's done a real nice job for us. 6-3 record this year with a 3.16 ERA over 108 and third innings. We will put him on the IL, obviously, for the next couple weeks. Hopefully he'll be back and be able to get several starts in before the playoffs, although no guarantees that as our number 5 starter that he'll be getting action as a starter in the playoffs. May end up moving into a important role for us in the bullpen come postseason time. And the last week of August went about the way the rest of August did. Not disastrous, but certainly not good. We lost 2 out of 3 at Texas, so in the 10 games against Texas this month, we were 4-6. Certainly would have hoped to be better, but it wasn't devastating. We did take 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers to finish off the month, but still going to be the first losing month we've had this year. As we sit here on September 1st, definitely a rough situation for our A's. Still in first place in the West, but only 2.5 up on the Astros and 4 up on the Rangers. We are still clinging to the best record in the American League. Our division rival Astros are the closest team to us. The Padres at this point are 3 games better than us for the best record in baseball. So we still have everything we had hoped to potentially achieve when this episode started at the end of August ahead of us. It's just that the path has gotten a lot more challenging than perhaps we expected. Despite the struggles we've had with our offense, particularly over the last 6 weeks or so, Juan Ramos continues to have a monster season, tied for the league lead in homers, second in ribbies, and Saldana still leading the American League in ERA, 131 and a third innings pitched right now, 131 games into the season, so it's going to be interesting to see whether or not Saldana ends up making it to 162 innings to qualify for the ERA title. Taking a look at the team statistics, our 78 and 53 record is 5 worse than Pythagorean expectations, so we've perhaps gotten a bit unlucky. That being said, with a 13 and 15 record in August, which followed up that very mediocre 12 and 11 record in July, we've been a below 500 team over the past 2 months at this point, and after the outstanding start we had to the season, that's definitely disappointing. Still more of a middle-of-the-pack offense at this point, 7th in the league in runs scored, and you can see 6th or 7th in a lot of offensive categories, so slightly above average in a 15-team American League, but certainly not exceptional. The pitching, however, does remain exceptional, first in runs allowed, and you can see we're first or second in almost every pitching category, still have pretty good defense as well. So hopefully we can straighten things out in this month of September, remain relatively healthy as we get ready for the postseason, and hopefully adding a couple of guys now with September roster expansion will provide a little bit of a jolt to our lineup. And I don't think I mentioned this a week ago when we were talking about the Garland injury, but I did put Jason DeCaro back into the rotation in the 5th spot for the next couple of weeks, even though he hasn't pitched well for us this year. Anulfo Dolan, the other captain personality that we picked up in our one trade before the trade deadline back on July 11th, a real rough start in Oakland for him, hitting just 200 in 135 at-bats, 48 WRC plus, and he's been below replacement level. Definitely disappointing. Did not necessarily expect he was going to be a world beater for us, but he had put up a 95 career WRC plus in almost 1,000 at-bats in Cleveland. So the fact that he is so dismal offensively with us makes me hope that it's just bad luck. But at this point, he's been striking out in 1 out of every 3 at-bats in Oakland after about 1 out of every 4 at-bats over the course of his Cleveland career. His BABIP of 292 is not that far off of his career mark. But as we head towards September roster expansion, which is, of course, today, we do have the opportunity to potentially bring Rodney Mesidor back and maybe get into a platoon situation, particularly while we've got the captain personality of DeCaro in our rotation for us over the next week or so until hopefully Garland will be ready to come back into that 5 spot in the rotation. And we have made 4 moves to bring some players onto the major league team, 2 pitchers and 2 position players. The pitchers who just called up were Chris Carl, the veteran left-hander who had options left that we've stashed in AAA for a good chunk of this season. He's also had some injury issues. He's got a relatively expensive team option for $4 million next year that we'll almost certainly be moving on from. But hopefully he can help us now. And then we brought up Jeff Tisch, a young pitcher who's got some outstanding stuff, world-class fastball and an excellent changeup. Doesn't always know how to control it. 24-year-old was a 10th round pick out of Charlotte Christian High School 7 years ago. He's been mediocre in AAA for us with a 4.40 ERA, but that stuff is special and would like to see how it translates to the majors. He's also been unhappy that at almost 25 years old he hasn't had the opportunity to make his major league debut yet, so we'll give him a little bit of an early birthday present. The guy that we did bring up when we put Garland on the IL a week ago was Daniel Blanco, one of the better prospects in our system. The 23-year-old put up a 3.19 ERA with 22 saves as our closer in AAA this year, and he has allowed no runs while striking out 4 over the first 3 innings pitched of his major league career. So Carl, the veteran, Tisch, the youngster, the September call-ups, and we're also getting a little bit of a look at Mr. Blanco right now. Again, when Garland's back, presumably one of those 3 players will be headed back down to AAA unless we have some other injury issues, which hopefully we won't. And in terms of the everyday players, we did bring Rodney Mesidor back, and we were, as we talked about a couple episodes ago, kind of training him to play second base while he was down in AAA. Only was there for 34 games, hit over 300, 9 homers, 25 ribbies, so pretty dominant at that level. And he does have the capability now to be a bit more versatile for us defensively if we need him to be with that experience at second base. Given that Dolan has struggled, we're going to put Mesidor in as our third baseman against left-handed pitching. Keep the switch-hitting Dolan, who's younger and I think still could get a little better, at least according to our scout, in the lineup against right-handed pitching. We also brought up center fielder Joe Harmon. He was a second-round pick of ours in 2032. Split this year between AA, where he was outstanding with a 143 WRC plus and 137 at-bats, and then AAA, where he was pretty mediocre, hitting just 220 and 250 at-bats. He did have 14 homers and 11 steals, though, and we like his base running skills. We also like his defense as a replacement corner outfielder to tighten up our outfield defense and potentially give Juan Palomares a break in center field from time to time. So at 23 years old, I don't love that we're not going to be giving Harmon everyday playing time for the next month up in the majors, but I don't think it's going to ultimately have a huge impact on his ability to reach his ceiling to maybe only get 15, 20 at-bats over the next month at the major league level. Hopefully the exposure to the best players in our organization will be positive for the youngsters' development. And our fan interest has dipped another point to 83, so we've lost 5 points over the course of the season, even though we're selling out every game. So we've bumped ticket prices up another $1. We're going to have a excellent financial season for the Oakland A's this year, but I don't love the fact that although we've been one of the top teams in baseball all season, we've lost fan interest. Going up against our old buddy Duncan Marston tomorrow against Arizona. Marston, you may remember, if you've been with us since the start of this, we picked him 4th overall in the 2024 player draft. Was a guy that we invested a lot of time and effort into. Never became the type of pitcher that we hoped he was going to be. Just pitched in 51 games over a couple of seasons in his mid-20s with Oakland before we moved on from him. And you can see he's had a bit of a journeyman's type career, also playing with the Orioles, the Rockies, the Phillies, and the Diamondbacks over the last decade or so in the majors. And we'll take the schedule week by week here for the month of September. We will have 4 games at the start of October with the Angels. Hopefully those won't mean too much to us. Well, we've got 2 on the road in Arizona and then 4 at Houston this week. As we talked about, Houston is now second place, closest to us in the standings, so that's going to be very important. And a once promising season continues to absolutely unravel right in front of our eyes. I'm starting to wish that I had been a bit more aggressive around the trade deadline, but as we've talked about, the prices were high, and when we were near the trade deadline, we had the best pitching staff in the league, which we still have at this point, and we had an offense that was one of the best in the American League, so didn't feel a ton of urgency. And with the prices, just decided to largely hold pat. But we've been a poor team for over 2 months now, or a mediocre team for more than 2 months now. We're a poor team, though, in the early stages of September. Split the series in Arizona, and then we were just swept by the second place Astros in a 4-game series in Houston. And that means they are no longer the second place Astros. They are a game and a half ahead of us in the division at this point. And a season when we felt we were in pretty good shape to break the Rangers' hold on the AL West. We're now only 2 games up on the final wild card spot in the American League. And it's not inconceivable that the Rangers could get past us and push us into third place in the division. So hopefully we can get things straightened out going forward. We've got a homestand against the Yankees and the Red Sox coming up this week. Taking a look at the standings, the Yankees at 78 and 59 are only a game worse than we are. The Red Sox at 55 and 82, though, are one of the worst teams in baseball. So hopefully we can take care of business against the Yankees and maybe get a sweep at home against the Red Sox, because we really need to stop the bleeding with this team as soon as possible. And fortunately, Bobby Garland is back and healthy. We split our first 2 games with New York, but we're now 2.5 behind as Houston just keeps winning. Jeff Tisch, obviously a very small sample size of just 2 1/3 innings for him, but with a 15.43 ERA, allowing 7 hits and 3 walks, plus a home run, or including a home run in those hits over 2 1/3 innings. Pretty easy to send him down to make room. We'll move DeCaro back into the bullpen and hope that Mr. Garland can help us stabilize things over these final 3.5, 4 weeks of the season. And after losing the first game in each series during the homestand to the Yankees and the Red Sox, we bounced back to take 2 out of 3 against both teams. So after 5 straight losses, we've won 4 out of 5. Still have a losing record for this month of September, and we're 2.5 behind in the division. We have opened up a little space between us and the Rangers, who have lost 3 in a row. 3 games up on the Rangers and the Royals for the final wild card spot, but we're only 3.5 games away from being out of the playoffs, shockingly, here in mid-September, given how well this team had been playing. Still hope that we can get by Houston and finish strong. As I noted, we're 3.5 games away from being out of the playoffs, but we're only 2.5 games away from being tied for the best record in the American League. So there still are a lot of different outcomes we can see with this team over these final 3 weeks or so of the season. Got 2 against Arizona, and then 4 on the road against Seattle. Before we finish off with some important series, 3 at Texas, 3 at the Angels, and then we'll finish off the month with 3 at home against Houston. Those could be very significant games for us. And then we'll finish with 4 at home against the Angels in October. So 3 weeks left. And as I talked about, we're a handful of games away from the best record in the American League. And we're a handful of games away from being out of the playoffs. So it's going to be a very eventful final 3 weeks of this 2037 season for our Oakland A's. And I guess the good news is we put together another 4-2 week. We swept the 2 games against Arizona and then split 4 games in Seattle. Certainly disappointing to lose the final 2 there after winning the first 2 on the road. So we are at Texas and at the Angels for 6 games this upcoming week. But despite the 4-2 record, we continue to fall further and further behind in the division. The Astros have won 7 in a row. We are 4.5 games behind Houston for the AL West and the best record in baseball. 4 games up on the Rangers for the second wild card spot, and 5 games up on our division rival, the Angels, for the final wild card spot in the American League. So certainly a lot of important baseball to be played over these final 2 weeks of the season when we are in the division the rest of the way. Juan Ramos, 2nd in the league in homers, 2nd in the league in ribbies. Jesus Saldana continues to lead the American League in ERA. He's up to 155 and a third innings pitched. So if he has just one really good start over these final 2 weeks of the season, he'll probably have enough innings pitched to qualify for the title. Winning an ERA title as a rookie will be pretty impressive. Would love him to keep that ERA below 2 because that will certainly help our chances of getting past the Astros. We've been chasing the Rangers for so long in the division. It is disappointing that in a year we finally felt like we were going to get past the Rangers. We very well might get past the Rangers, but the Astros are going to leapfrog both of us to take over that AL West title unless we can do better. Those 3 home games next week against Houston are going to be critically important. Right now, if they keep winning, unless we have a monster week, we're pretty much going to need to go 3-0 against Houston, and even that might not be enough to get us back into first place. And we kind of did what we needed to do against the 3rd place Rangers, winning 2 out of 3 against them. And then we went on the road and we were swept by the Angels. So a 2-4 week, 6.5 behind in the division with 7 games to go. Still in 2nd place, but these 3 games against Houston are going to be critical. And then honestly, the Angels have been surging of late. 4 games at home against them is going to be very important also because they are 10-0 in their last 10. More importantly, 12-0 in their last 12. The Rangers have dipped to 4th in the division now. 3 games up on them, feeling pretty confident that we'll remain ahead of them, which is going to be important because we're 3 games up on the Rangers for the final wild card spot, but only 3.5 from being out of the playoffs. But it is not inconceivable if we struggle against the Astros and these Angels. If we really struggle, it's not inconceivable we miss the playoffs, as our magic number is still 4 for the playoffs. But it's also possible after a year where we were talking not that long ago about the best record in baseball and home field advantage throughout the playoffs that we could even drop out of the number 1 wild card spot and have to have a road wild card series, which is certainly not the way we wrote this up, as we're trying to put this team in the best position possible for the postseason to defend our title. And these last 2.5, 3 months of the season have just really not gone well for these Oakland A's. As you can see, Houston's magic number for the division is down to 1. So we need to sweep them over these next 3 games. And then we also need to sweep the Angels while Houston is losing every one of the 6 games they've got left this season. Not a high probability that we go 7-0 while they go 0-6, but there's still a chance. But there's no chance for the division anymore. We did take the first 2 at home against Houston, but lost yesterday in a 1-run game, 7-6. So the division, the best record in baseball, a first-round bye, are all officially gone. The Angels have struggled a bit while the Rangers have been surging recently. So we're 2 up on the Rangers and 3 up on the Angels for the division battle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd wild cards in the American League. Our magic number is down to 1 to clinch a playoff spot. Clearly would love to hang on to the 1st wild card position and at least have a home field advantage for those 2 or 3 games in the first round when we will almost certainly be facing off against a divisional rival. And you can see fan interest has absolutely collapsed to an 81. We were 88 when we started the season. And again, although we have been struggling of late, we are still a 90-plus win team that is almost certainly going to be in the playoffs and is the defending World Series champions. We finally started not selling out every game since we upped the ticket prices to $36, and fan interest continued to fall, but feel like that's a little bit harsh for the way we've performed on the field and the fact that the fans are still coming out pretty consistently to watch us play. And with 4 games to go before hopefully the playoffs begin, September was another losing month. So again, over the last 3 months, we have been a below 500 team after that outstanding start to this season. The offense, which we thought was good, is average. Average isn't horrible, particularly without our best player in Jake Ortega, even though he struggled before he got hurt this year. But certainly the way we played over the first 3 months of the season, we're hoping for more than an average offensive team here in Oakland. Pitching still excellent, 1st in the American League in runs allowed, and you can see 1st, 2nd, or 3rd in most of the offensive categories. And our Pythagorean expectations are that we'd be 96 and 62. So we have gotten a little bit unlucky because we're 5 games worse than expectations, and we're 5.5 out in the division. So arguably on paper, we should still be competing with the Astros for the division title. But unfortunately, these games aren't played on paper. They are played on a computer screen. And with 3 games to go in the season, we have clinched a wild card, 4-0 win over the Angels. Got another brilliant outing from Jesus Saldana, the rookie. 2 hits, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts over 6 innings. He's going to finish the season 13-4 with a league best 1.95 ERA. You can see it was a young pitching effort from us today. The 23-year-old Saldana closing off his brilliant rookie season. Daniel Blanco, the 24-year-old who we brought up at the beginning of September, still hasn't allowed an earned run. And the second-year player, 25-year-old Doug Weiss, 2.18 ERA on the season. He picked up his 16th save for us while working in that stopper role. So we will be back in the playoffs, which is obviously very positive. We're now 3 games up on the Rangers and 4 games up on the Angels. So if we are able to win 1 more game, that's going to lock us in to the home field advantage for the wild card series against the Rangers or the Angels or the Royals at this point. So if we win today against Los Angeles, we can start maybe being a little more creative with the pitching staff to ensure that we have things set up, but certainly feel good that Saldana pitched yesterday, so he should be ready to go for us in the first or second game of the eventual wild card series if we want him to. On the mound for us today, fourth starter Kevin Patterson. Ferris went 3 days ago, so we probably will be able to hold him out of game 162. And Dora just went 2 days ago, so we're actually in a pretty good spot with our top three pitchers. We should have them all set up for the 3-game wild card series as long as we hold Ferris out in game 162. And we did just get shut out 7-0 by the Angels. Kevin Patterson on the mound. Number 5 starter Bobby Garland on the mound here for us in game 161. If we can get the W today or the Rangers lose, that will lock us into the top wild card spot, and we won't need to even consider whether or not to pitch one of our top pitchers in game 162. But unfortunately, over the last 3+ months, nothing goes easily for these Oakland A's. We lost to the Angels, and the Rangers have actually won 2 in a row at this point. So we are only 1 game up on them for being able to host a wild card series. Have to look at this point on our team versus team records, and we are 6-12 against the Angels but we're actually worried about the Rangers right now. 10-9 against the Rangers. So we just did have the tiebreaker over the Rangers as we head into the final game of the year. So even if we lose and they win, we should get home field advantage by virtue of that 10-9 record against Texas. So what that lets me do is not pitch Jackson Ferris today. We are going to hold him back. We'll decide whether we should go with Jason DeCaro or bring somebody up from the minors, but we'll hold Ferris back, so we will have Ferris, Dora, and Saldana all available for us in some order for the wild card series that we will, unless I'm really bad at math, be hosting in Oakland. And we did get a 9-4 win on the final day of the season. We were going to start Jason DeCaro. For some reason, the AI started Kamani O'Banner on short rest for us. I had plugged in DeCaro into the number 1 spot in the rotation, but apparently our manager had other ideas, so that'll mean that it's good to see O'Banner start a game for us. We thought he's a guy who could potentially be a decent starter for us if we needed him, so good to see him perform well. But the thing is, with 93 pitches today, Gigolo O'Banner probably not going to be as big a part of our bullpen for the wild card series as we would have hoped. Led the AL in holds this year, and as we noted, did get the start on the closing day of the season. Huntley and Cope, Huntley the youngster and Cope the veteran left-hander on in relief for us. So we got a W when all was said and done. Dolan finishes with a nice game, couple of ribbies for him on the final day of the year, and he did hit a homer for us, so that was nice to see. Not the season that we had hoped. We did end up getting by the Rangers in the division, but unfortunately the Astros, as we talked about, leapfrogged both of us in the division. 100-win Astros end up as the best team in baseball, 2 better than the Padres. at 93 and 69. We are once again second place in the AL West, which is where we have resided over the past half decade plus at this point. We will be hosting the Rangers in a wild card series. The Royals, who ended up winning 4 in a row, ended up edging the Angels for the final wild card spot by a game, so there won't be 4 playoff teams from our AL West division this year. Got to be a disappointing result for the Angels, but we feel good that with our win today, we're the ones that did that to them. Juan Ramos, year after leading the AL with 148 ribbies, ends up second with 131 ribbies and second with 42 homers on the season. Saldana, as we talked about, with that 195 ERA, had a brilliant rookie season. And again, he will be the reason that Steve Genis, who had 23 wins, 265 strikeouts, and a league best 6.4 WAR, does not get to win the pitching Triple Crown, although he will almost certainly win a 4th consecutive Cy Young Award. Over in the National League, some big performances from our old friends. Brady Harris, former outfielder for us, led the league with 143 ribbies. Luis Lara ended up tied for second in stolen bases. Harris also led the league with an 8.1 batter WAR after he signed that big extension with the Phillies. Mike Ramsey, of course, as always, a monster year. 7.2 WAR as a batter, along with a league best 9.7 WAR as a pitcher for the 96-win Atlanta Braves. We would love to see the Braves again. We faced off against them in the World Series a year ago, where we swept them. And if we see a team that on paper is better than us, like the 98-win Padres or the 96 Braves over the next month, it's going to mean that we made it to the World Series and we'll get a chance to defend our title in the Fall Classic. But a lot of work to do to get there. We're going to need to win 9 games to get back to the World Series, and we'll be starting off in our next episode in a wild card series against the Texas Rangers, which we will be hosting in Oakland. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.